And so one of the number one things that we can remember as leaders is that the value is in the vision that God has given you, and to not grow weary in aiming for that thing every single day like your life depends on it, because it does. Welcome to Free to Dream podcast. My name is JG, and I am here to push you out of your comfort zone, but I'm also here to help you ignite your bold dreams and ensure that you are living with unshakable conviction. This is your go-to resource for boldness and breakthrough, because you, yes, you, were created to dream and belong where you are free. So join me as we dive into what truly means to dream with God as we create uninhibitedly and live unapologetically. Are you free? This is the Free to Dream podcast. Welcome to the Free to Dream podcast. My name is JG, and you are in for quite a treat today. In fact, all month long, we are going to be unpacking a topic that I think is pertinent, important, and for everybody. We are going to be talking about leadership. Now, if you followed me at all, or you've looked at my website, or you've seen anything that we do on social media, you'll hear me say this phrase over and over and over again, which is dream bold, lead big, and make an impact. And so often I focus on dream bold because it changed my life. It's a topic that I care so much about. It's something that I believe changes not only our day-to-day perspective, but has the impact of changing our lives, our family, our community, our church. But oftentimes I focus so much on dreaming and what it means to dream, and boldness and what it means to be bold, that I don't spend a whole lot of time talking about leading big. Or for most people, even just understanding what does it mean to be a leader. And so this month, or over the next couple of episodes, I'm going to dive into leadership, and you're going to love it. And it might be convicting, and it might be inspiring, and it might challenge you. But more than anything, I just believe that it's going to equip you to lead big. And even as I say that right at the gate, most of you think that I should be saying dream big, lead bold. And I think that's where we get it wrong right out of the gate. And I am not a big fan of this concept of dreaming big for many reasons. Number one, I think it drives more insecurity and not enoughness, right? Because the minute I say dream big, we look at my dreams in comparison to someone else's dreams, and we start measuring them based upon numbers and stats and results. And when we ultimately take it to my second reason of why we don't talk about dreaming big, is that it never says that in the Bible. You know, Jesus never was like, you should dream big. Like, that is something that our westernized culture has created verbiage around that just really, I don't know about you, but doesn't necessarily inspire lasting change, doesn't generally motivate people for very long, and can really create an environment of insecurity and a lack of self-worth. And so for me, I believe in dreaming bold. The Bible talks so much about dreaming with God. It talks about creating with him. It talks about union with him. It talks about partnership with him. And it talks a lot about boldness and how spending time with Jesus creates the atmosphere within us to do bold things for him. We see this in the lives of the apostles. We see this in the lives of anyone who knew Jesus, spent time with Jesus, that it is in our time with him that we become bold for him. And so what dreaming bold does is it creates the opportunity for us to lead big. And that's what I want to talk with you about today and in these next couple of episodes, is what does it look like to walk in leadership? And so today's episode is really Leadership 101, and just understanding what does it look like to influence people. Now, right out of the gate, if you're still listening, I know that that word resonates. Leadership, leading, to lead, like that drew you in. And if you're still here, you believe that you are a leader. And maybe you're just here because you like me, or you've heard about this podcast. You're like, I don't even like that word. I don't feel like I'm a leader. I'm not leading anything. I don't run a business. I don't have a team. I'm not a leader, but I'm here because blank, right? Well, here's what I want you to know. Whether you are leading a team, building a business, raising a family, or simply showing up in your everyday life, you are influencing someone, which means that you are a leader, right? Because by definition, a leader is someone who influences someone else. So it doesn't actually matter who you are influencing, it matters that you know you are a leader. And the question is not whether or not you are, because you are, we already know that, check, is how are you leading? That's really what we're going to start unpacking over the next couple of weeks, is not whether you are a leader, you are. The question really is, how are you leading? So in today's episode, Leadership 101, we're just going to dive into the heart of leadership. We're going to unpack what it really means to inspire others, to influence others, not through perfection or through the need to please, not through leadership based upon measures or metrics or how many followers you have, which is why a lot of us either think we are or aren't leaders, is based upon how many people we're leading. But ultimately, to activate something within you to lead through a place of authenticity, conviction, right? And I want to give you very practical tools to grow in your leadership. And want to share with you some of the greatest mindset shifts that I've had and the opportunity in leading so many different types of people, whether it's my own kids as a mom, whether it's my own team, my dream team, whether it's people that I've been coaching. I lead a lot of leaders, training leaders to lead their teams. You name it, been there, done that, and have now really understood what it means to be a leader, and that we're all doing it every day in every way. So today, in this episode, what you're going to walk away with is just really understanding of what does it mean to be a leader, because you are. How to lead well, right? Because how you're leading matters. Ultimately, how to instill within you some of the tricks of the trade, and really my outline of how to lead with greater conviction, alignment, and authority that ignites action in those that we're leading. And just to remind you that who you are matters, and who you're leading matters, and where you're going matters, and what you're doing matters. So if you have ever doubted your ability to lead, well, then you're welcome. This one is for you. Or if you already really resonate with being a leader and you see the people that you're leading, and most of the time you're calling into bed at night going, let's be honest, I have no idea what I'm doing or where I'm going. Well, this one's for you too. Right. And here's what's interesting. Statistics have shown that the top CEOs, their greatest number one fear is that someone will find out that they don't know really what they're doing. And I think that's one of the first and foremost things that we have to recognize as a visionary and as a leader of any kind. Most of the time we're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and even though you could buy books and all things, like all of our stories and those that we're leading and the circumstances and obstacles and dreams that we have are very unique to who we are. And so we have to be really honest that none of us actually really know what we're doing. And if you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like they put that baby in your hand and you're like, I've read every book. I've listened to every podcast. I've read the Bible front cover to end cover. And you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. I mean, right. I have 5 kids, and there are days that you're like, just don't let them know that you have no idea what you're doing. Right. And so it's just, I want to also gift you with a way to ask better questions as a leader, questions you need to be asking yourself, and questions you need to be asking the people that you're leading. Because also what I want to be very clear on is, though we carry such an amazing mantle to lead, that we're also not taking on false responsibility to be God, right? That there is a God and we are not him. And so as leaders, all of us, we're not responsible in a way that bears such this false weight that is unnecessary for us to carry. So we're going to do all of that, not only today, but in the next couple of episodes. So take a deep breath. We got so much to dive into. It's time to lead well and make an impact. So let's dive in first and foremost with, even as we're talking about this, I'd love for you to maybe pause this episode and even just answer the question, what does leadership mean to you? Define it. Pause the button, push pause. What, right? I want you to define what it means first, because as Mark Twain said, that JG says all the time, He says it's not what we know that hurts us, it's what we think we know that just isn't so. And so oftentimes we can create definitions that are formed by inaccurate interpretations. So, how do you define leader? And how would you define your leadership style? If some of you are still like, I'm not convinced I'm a leader, I'm a server, I have the gift of hospitality, like, I'm not guns a-blazing, I'm not proactive, I just do what I told. Again, I'm about ready to tell you why we're all leaders. So maybe just write that down. My leaders, how I would define a leader is what then? So if you don't quite yet call yourself a leader, then you would define it as what? Okay, now here's what I want you to know. We are all leaders, all of us in every way. One of my favorite quotes from John Quincy Adams says, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you're a leader. So if you think about that, right, there's someone, even if it's one person that you are dreaming with, you are teaching, you are doing things with, right, that you are, maybe this is a child, maybe this is a friend, maybe this is someone in your church, maybe this is a coworker, right? Maybe this is a neighbor. This isn't about how many people you're leading. It's just the fact that you have an active voice in someone's life. Someone, who are they? Right? For those of you who are very well aware of that, I want you to take inventory. I want you to be able to see the influence that you have in people's lives. And I want you to draw some awareness in the role that you've been given as a leader to inspire people to dream more, to learn more, to do more, to become more. This is the best part about being a leader. But even if we go beyond an amazing quote from someone like John Quincy Adams, right? Let's look at a verse that I love so much, straight from Jesus's mouth, right? In the book of John, chapter 13-15, he literally says this to us. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. So ultimately what Jesus did is he came and he carved the path and he gave us an example to follow in him. And so now when we go, well, if I'm a leader, who leads me? Jesus. Right? Like he literally came, right, as an embodiment of flesh to lead us in a way that though he isn't physically here with us today, he has given us example upon example about how he did things. And quite honestly, it was generally the complete opposite of what people were used to, right? Like Jesus didn't meet expectations. He ran straight through them, right? So we thought he was going to be coming on horses and grand chariots and right, and he was born in a manger to Mary and Joseph, right? Like and it wasn't the leaders of the time who first saw Jesus. It was the shepherds, right? And then he comes and many thought that he was going to just fulfill the law, and all of the Pharisees and Sadducees were blown away when he didn't just fulfill the law or just abolish it. He fulfilled it, and then he gave us grace. So instead of just trying to preach that everyone needed to do exactly what the law said, he realized that was impossible, and so he didn't abolish it. He fulfilled it, and then he gave us a different way. And he said, "Now, do as I have done." So what ultimately this tells us is that not only is he our example, and so when all else fails as leaders, we have to go back to the word of God. Yes, there is 1,000 PDFs and 1,000 books that will work as it pertains to leadership. But I would also like to propose that Jesus sets the example for us to follow, but then he says and does something that is amazing for us. And he says, do as I have done to you, which means now he wants us to turn and to set the example for those that will follow us. And the beauty of this is the ripple effect, right? This is a part of what I believe is the Great Commission, which is to go into all of the nations, all of the world, and to tell people about Jesus, right? To disciple people in their faith, right? We are all disciples. So here he sets the stage. Now, what that tells us though is we go, all right, so rubber hits the road, and then how do we actually define leadership then in a way that inspires us to walk in it fully, right? To maximize the impact. And so I started doing some research around what does that word mean, right? And I think it's always wonderful to start with Google, right? But I really found some of my search the search optimization was legit. Here's one definition of lead to lead. It's to cause to go with one by holding them by the hand. It gives examples like a halter or a rope while moving forward. Some synonyms of the word are guide, conduct, show, lead the way, usher, escort, steer, shepherd, accompany, see, take, help, and assist. So many of those words felt convicting to me because as we start to wrap our heads around what it means to lead every day in every way, because we are, it makes you say, am I guiding? Am I conducting? Am I showing? Am I leading the way, ushering people in, escorting them, steering them, shepherding them, accompanying them, like letting them have eyes to see, taking them, helping them, assisting them? Man, if we're immediately, you're like, I generally will do the pendulum swing. Either no, it's kind of like figure it out type of leadership, right? Or it's I'll just do it for you. And we swing this pendulum and we're like, I don't know if I'm actually doing those things. Right. Or I'm giving people the rules in which they need to, right, achieve what I want them to achieve. But then you see words like shepherd, accompany, see. And I think this is what's interesting about being a leader is that generally we have been given eyes to see something that the people around us may not see. Right? I mean, think about being a parent, right? All of us see something different than our 5-year-old, 10-year-old, even 20-year-old. Why? Because we have a little bit more experience. Right? Or even if you think about being a leader of your business or a leader of your ministry, right? And you have a clear vision. For a lot of leaders, we are high visionaries, which means we can clearly see the outcome. We can clearly see the result. For those of us who have a prophetic word, we've been downloaded a strategic framework that is divine, and we can see those blueprints in our mind. And then you go, do we realize that it's kind of part of our job to help other people see that same thing and to accompany them and assist them in that process? Just kind of makes you go, Right? Then another definition says, be a route or means of access to a particular place in a particular direction. Another definition is the initiative in action, an example for others to follow. Right? So it's oftentimes it comes back to like it is the person who is willing to initiate action to the point in which it invites other people to do the same. Amazing. This doesn't mean that this bears the false responsibility of needing to know all the answers. It just means that I know where to go. And together we're going to figure out how to get there. And so as I've studied all of this and I've led thousands of teams, leaders of all kinds, including my own kids, which, right, when you come home, right, it feels like the plumber's house always leaks. But really recognizing that there is power in the fact that number one, we all lead, and then number two, how we lead matters. This is JG's definition of leadership. It's to live boldly in pursuit of the things that set our souls on fire while encouraging others to do the same. If we can wrap our minds and our hearts around this definition, I believe we will make an impact. And I believe that God has given every single one of us very specific dreams. And this doesn't mean that we all dream about the same thing. We're not supposed to. And this doesn't mean that you're supposed to build a business or start a ministry. That this is that you have a dream for your family, you have a dream for your community, you have a dream for your career, you have a dream for your business, you have a dream for your church, right? A dream is not just have a nice house, check it off. It is something that in every area of our lives, it's divine revelation of what God is doing in that particular area. And when we are clear on that and he sets our soul on fire for that vision, then boom, we are now in a leadership role where we get to lead those around us in that vision. Whether it's my family, my church, my staff, my friends, my neighborhood, my community, it doesn't actually matter who it is. It just matters that you are clear on the dream, the vision that God's given you, that your soul is set on fire for that, and that now you have the opportunity to invite people into that journey. Now, if you're listening today and you're like, I'll have a dream, go back and listen to another podcast. Go back and binge. This is now I'm going to talk direct to my leaders. Okay. So this is me kind of wading the waters. Now I'm going to talk direct to my leaders because you are the ones that you're listening because you're like, I am. And I need some more tools in my tool belt to lead well. Because you realize now that you're a leader. You don't need me to convince you anymore. Thank you for letting me take, 17 minutes to convince a few more of you that you're a leader. Now I'm going to speak those that you go, I am. I get it. Now, how you lead matters. It matters because how you lead them and where you're leading them is so important. And as we read in John that Jesus is saying, I have given you an example to follow. Now do as I have done to you. That tells you that that Jesus is giving you his mantle, and how you lead people matters. And so now that your soul is set on fire for that vision, that dream that God has given you, I do not want you to downplay that dream to accommodate or to create a comfortable environment for people. Like, no, I want your soul to be so set on fire for the dream that God has given you. And I am here today to speak life into that dream and to tell you that that vision that God has given you, I see you visionaries. I see you wild ones. I see you crazy ones that most of the time you feel crazy. And you feel crazy because you can see the picture of what God intended. And some days you're just frustrated because what isn't what he said. And I'm here today to give you some encouraging word and some practical tools in the tension of the in-between. And to remind you that how you lead in the in-between is just as important as getting to the destination. Right. And so what I want to speak to first and foremost is just leadership 101 is I want to breathe life into that dream. And though you might be experiencing delays, and though you've had the right team and maybe then it's fallen apart, right? Or you've started a million times and then it's failed, or that you like, one of the things my husband says all the time is, I have failed more than you've ever even tried. Some of you today, you are discouraged because you have been pushing towards this dream and leading with your whole heart. And you have every excuse and reason under the sun, it feels, to stop or to accommodate those bold dreams just to kind of fit the boring narrative of the world around us. Or some of you are shrinking those dreams to fit the quote unquote industry. Stop doing that. Are you a business owner, visionary, entrepreneur who has bold dreams, but yet you are struggling to integrate them into your business? Or you feel called to make a kingdom impact, but you just don't seem to have the right team to get you there. And so you find yourself at the edge of burnout and you only push forward because you know there has to be a better way? Well, you're in luck because yes, there is a better way. It's called Team Dream. Team Dream is my exclusive mastermind group specifically for you. It's where bold dreams meet strategic action and kingdom impact becomes a reality. Look, this is not just another business coaching program. It's a transformative experience that will help you grow by providing the missing structure that you need to break through whatever is standing between where you are and where you want to be. And here's the best part. I want to personally invite you to my free Team Dream Discovery Call Wednesday, April 30th. And you will walk away with clarity, next steps, and the vision to lead your team with more purpose and passion. So don't wait. Register for free today by clicking on the link in the show notes or scanning that QR code right there. Because let's be honest, you're not just in business, you're called. And it's time to dream bold, lead big, and make an eternal impact with Team Dream. Who's on your team? The soul on fire in me honors the soul on fire in you. And I'm here to remind you today that playing small benefits no one. Playing according to industry standards benefits no one. Throwing your past experiences on God's future potential serves no one. And so one of the number one things that we can remember as leaders is that the value is in the vision that God has given you, and to not grow weary in aiming for that thing every single day like your life depends on it, because it does. And then to not grow weary in inviting people to join you in that, because it will be worth it. And you might fail more times than some people can try, but I promise you, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. So this is what it means to lead. It means to live so boldly in pursuit of the things that set your soul on fire that you also encourage others to do the same. And I think that's the key about a leader is you're not just inviting people just to go after your dreams, you're inviting them to also pursue theirs while you're in pursuit of yours. Right. And I think that's the big thing, right? I think that that's either where we get the narcissist leader who just wants everybody to follow their dream, right? Or we get the passive aggressive leader who allows other people's dreams to be more important than theirs, right? Or then we get the person who is just fearful or afraid to be seen, and so they don't invite anybody to chase after dreams, period, because they're just afraid to be seen. What if I'm not loved for who I am? What if people won't hear my voice, right? And so there's all these different ways that we come at our leadership styles. And I think what we really need to understand is that it is so important to be totally set on fire with the dream that God's given you. But here's the deal. When you start sharing that vision with someone else, there are people who want to be encouraged in their dreams. And the fact that you're bold enough to start chasing yours is going to give them room to chase theirs while also chasing yours. And I think that's the power of the body of Christ, right? It talks about that the body of Christ is so important, and no role is more important than another, right? Like, we could go, well, the eyes are more important than the ears, but the last I checked, having eyes with no hearing is not as ideal, right? Or we would go like, oh, my pinky toe is maybe not as important as my heart, but right, like you didn't have your pinky toes or your foot for that matter, and you're like, you're all off kilter, right? And so there's all parts of the body are equally as important, and though each one of them has a role and a dream, the ears dream is to hear well, and the toes is to be able to create just this foundation to stand upon, and the heart is to beat and to pump blood, right? We all have a mini dream that plays a role in the macro dream. And so when you start to get clearer on the real, true, authentic dream and vision that God has given you in any area of your life, and then you start to see who you're going to need, and you encourage others to start chasing their dream in the midst of this bigger dream, now you have a dream team. Now it's not just about your dream, it's about their dream. And it's not just about their dream, it's about your dream. And now it's about this bigger collective dream that together we can chase towards. Together, no pun intended, but that's why I'm wearing my Dream Together shirt, which is what our ministry is all about, is about uniting the body of Christ to be after one dream, one mission, right? Together, we create a ripple effect, right? We're able to do more together. Right. That's why one of my favorite quotes is, right, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Now we're gonna dive into that over the series of the next couple of episodes. But let's go to this word big now, because I'm talking about, all right, so if I am now walking in such a way that my soul is set on fire, and then now I play a role and go, no, I want to ignite and encourage and challenge other people to do the same, then it allows me to start leading in big ways. Big ways. So let's look at what that word big means. If you just were to Google it, it would mean considerable size, extent, intensity, considerable importance, or seriousness. So not only does this have to do with quantity, right? Considerable size, even more so, it has to do with quality. So when I say lead big, if we're really understanding the effects of multiplication, which means 1 plus 10 would equal 11, right? But 10 plus 10 would equal 20, but 10 times 10 would equal 100, right? If we look at the law of multiplication, we understand that if we are really leading others and encouraging them to be set on fire, that it should, as a byproduct, create the multiplication effect, which would mean that then we would see a big impact because of the law of multiplication, right? Not because we just want more for the sake of more, but because we should be able to multiply in that. Not only should it start to impact our quantity, we're not just doing basic addition, we're doing multiplication. 10 plus 10 is 20. No, 10 times 10 is 100. But it should also impact the quality. Oh, man. The considerable importance. So when we start to lead big, we start to actually see the quality of what we do should be equally as impactful. Now, if we look at that word big, it was actually inherited from a Northern Middle English word, which means powerful or strong. And so this is where I want to just kind of for a second break the idea or the notion that we bear the false responsibility as leaders to have all the answers, to know exactly what to do or to how to do it, right? To cross every T and dot every I. In fact, I think that is pride. I think that's ego. And I think that's what gets in the way of multiplication, is that the buck kind of stops with us and we create this environment for those around us that thinks that we should be the ones that answer how to do everything. And I think that's why we're burning out. And I think that's why we're controlling as leaders. I think that's why our people's souls are not set on fire. I think that that's why we have bouts of inspiration, but then we can't maintain it, is because we continue to put ourselves in a position that we don't need to be. So if we go to scripture immediately and we go, all right, but does God tell us more about what it means to be powerful and strong, right? Because we see story after story after story about impossibility becoming quite possible with the Lord, right? We see Red Sea parting, we see Noah building an ark, we see Esther's journey, right? Like we see the apostles doing things that you're like, what? How, right? We see Paul. If you study the life of Paul at all, here's a man that was once Saul. He thought he was the most important, significant one. Then he's renamed Paul. He has one encounter with Jesus and he sees himself as small all of a sudden. And he says, I stand before you in fear and trembling at the weight of the responsibility of the message I'm supposed to share with you. Like all of a sudden, an encounter with Jesus reprioritizes how he sees himself. And instead of trying to be significant and important, he sees himself as weak. You're like, well, but JG, I thought big meant to be powerful and strong. Well, it does. But here's what the Bible, if you start to follow all of these trends of anyone who did anything impossible in the Word of God, we see that it leads back to scriptures like we find in 2 Corinthians 12:9, which says, my grace is all you need, for my power is greatest when you are weak. So what God is now saying is that that word big, meaning powerful and strong, that could have the quality to do important things, is because that when we find ourselves at our weakest point, that's where God's power is made strongest. In the Passion Translation, it even talks about that our weakness is actually a portal for his strength. It's actually a channel that goes from heaven to earth and releases a supernatural power, insight, strength that blows our mind. And oftentimes as leader, I wonder if we continue to just focus so much on our strengths, taking every strength finders, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, anything that affirms our strengths, and we're just doubling down on those, which I'm not suggesting we shouldn't, right? I think that's stewardship. I think those are two totally different types of conversations. I think you got to know who you are. I think you have to know how you're wired. I think you have to know what your vision is. I think you need to know what your strengths are. And yes, please double down, right? That's all skill set. I think that's amazing. But the parting of the Red Sea, do you know what I mean? Like changing industries, 10xing growth, changing lives, impacting communities, making the world a better place, like building something bigger than ourselves. That is possible because we actually are willing to look at our weakness and allow God to infuse it with his glory. That we are actually able to look at our weakness and find someone else who that is their strength and allow their strength to blow your weakness out of the water, right? That could God not only just use his strength to where he creates a miracle, but could he also use people? I like to propose yes. That actually in those places of weakness where we isolate and we retreat and we don't ask for help, we try to ignore it, that could it be that God actually wants to infuse his power through someone else? Right? Through bringing around an incredible team, a dream team, no pun intended, completely intended. Do you know what I mean? Like, could it be that the thing that we're running from is the thing that we should be running to and inviting people in? And that if we just shared our vision, here's what God put on my heart about my business, about this industry, about our family, about our community, about this church. God is burning this vision on my heart. And I don't know how to do it, but I need the right people to come along and support me. Could it be that by just in that place of weakness of saying, but I don't know how to do it, but if we have the boldness, the audacity to share it, that someone else may just raise their hand and say, I could do that. I can do that. And that God might just use someone else and blow our minds in that way? I don't think so. Or we look at Philippians 4:13 that says, I can do all this through him who gives me strength. And I think these are just those but God moments, where we get halfway through the sentence and we go, well, I don't know what I'm doing. and we stick a period at the end of our sentence as opposed to a comma. But God, He knows what I need to be doing. I'm running out of money. And then we put a period. But God, what if we put a comma? But God, what do you want me to know here, God? And what do you want me to do? Right? If we hit a point of like, I've tried 1,000 times before and failed, we stick a period. But what if we put a comma and a but God? But God, He uses everything, all of it, even my failures. If we're not careful, we start to idolize our pain. We idolize our failures. We idolize statistics. We idolize metrics. Some of you are like, yeah, but if you look at the charts, okay, I get that there's ways to fix the charts. There's experts that can help us with our metrics and our measurements and our stats, not downplaying that. And then there's just these moments that there's just this, but God, right? And I think, my life is a huge testimony to that. I wrote my book, Dream, I Dare You, released at COVID. So 5 years ago, that dream, I had a vision that book would go to the nations. For 4 years, I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. I went all in. I've hired a team. I did all of the things I pushed. We did everything we knew how to do. And we hit a lot of home runs and we had a lot of epic failures. There was months that we were spending more than we were making. There was some that we were celebrating and the next we weren't. There's times that I've hired. There's times that I've had to lay off. I mean, it's been a wild ride. And then last week, I stood in a church in El Salvador with my book translated into Spanish, delivering the same message in a different country, comma, but God. There is no way I could have opened that door on my own. And in fact, for years I tried. And for me, it was one of those moments that you look around and there's no way. I didn't even practically ask a friend to open that door. It just flung wide open. Now, did I do all the things to try to get that door open? Absolutely. But did any of my own efforts open that door? Not one. But God. And so I think as a leader, there's just really this fine line between what's mine and what's God's. What am I willing to do to get out of the boat? And I got to put in the reps and I got to look at the charts and I got to identify the stats and I got to hire right. I mean, there's so many things that we can say, okay, that's on me. And as leaders, we have to hit a point where we put a comma in it and add the but God. And some of you need to get to the end of that sentence and you need to put a comma where you've been putting a period. But with God, He gives me all the strength I'm going to need. All the strength I'm going to need. To what? To lead people well. To lead people well. So what's my point today? My point is today that this is going to be an ongoing journey. So for the next couple of weeks, please tune in. We're going to have some fun with this and we're going to dive really deep. We're going to get even clearer. But it's to invite you into this reality that you are a leader. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you are. It doesn't even matter how many people you're leading. Whether you're a mom or a dad, you are getting ready to lead a new role within your ministry. You are a business owner, currently very well aware that you are a leader. It doesn't matter. All of us are leaders. And it's time that we start leading big. And our job is to ensure that vision is so clear, right? That our soul is so set on fire for the vision and the dream that God's given us. And if it's not, we either need an upgrade or a new one, or we got to let that thing die so God can give us a fresh vision and a fresh dream for any and every area, because it is our job to be so clear about that, to then allow that to set other souls on fire too. And then to start inviting people to walk with us, to dream together in this bigger plan, and to actually position ourselves to get to the end of ourselves and to add a comma, to watch the bigness of who God is, to be infused in our areas of weakness so that He can be made strong. And to allow our ability to not need to always just show up on the front lines knowing what we're doing, but to start invite people around us who just might know better than we do. And to not need to be the top dog or the one who can answer every question, but to actually start to bring other people around us who can fill in our gaps. So I have some homework for you. All right. If you're there with me, and you're like, I get this. I have a couple of questions that I want you to be thinking about this next week. And this has impacted the way that I lead my kids, my team, my church, every role within my ministry. And it's really simple. Who, what, when, where, how, and why. I want you to spend some time. And this might be this you're like, what, who, what, where, how, why, what, all of those. When we answer these questions, it's going to change. Listen to my questions for you. Who am I becoming as a leader? Right? Asking who. Who am I becoming as a leader? Who am I called to serve and influence? And who do I need around me to go further? Answering those questions could change everything. What vision am I casting to the other that others can run with? What values am I modeling in how I lead? What obstacles are keeping me or my team stuck? The power of asking what? Where am I leading others? What's the destination? Where is there misalignment in my vision and my action? Where is there misalignment in our vision and my team's action? Where can I grow or stretch as a leader right now? When do I need to set up and take bold action? When is it time to rest, recalibrate, or release control? When have I seen leadership wins I can celebrate and build upon? The power of asking when. How? How am I inspiring trust, clarity, and momentum in my team? How do I respond when things don't go as planned? How can I lead more authentically and intentionally? The power of asking how. And then why, which is probably, again, I'm a high visionary. So why is one of the most important questions I ask, but why do I lead? And is this reason still fueling me? Why does this vision matter to me and those I lead? And why would someone want to follow me in this? All of these questions can completely simplify and transform the way that you lead and the way that you invite others to run alongside you together. Now, if you're like, you rapid fired these, like, I need to sit with God, I need to yield, I need what? Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to click on the link in the show notes. I have created a completely free PDF for you to actually not only just ask yourself this question, but even gives you space to find your answers, right? Because it's one thing to have the question, it's another to find the answer, and then to learn how to take one next bold step towards that answer, right? And so in this PDF, not only am I going to ask you the questions, I'm going to give you the space to reflect upon your answer, and then I'm going to give you a place to activate that answer and to identify one thing that you can do to move towards that reality. Bottom line, we are called to lead. Bottom line, Jesus gave us the best example. He's given us his example to follow that generally defies societal norms, that will probably break a lot of the habit loops that we find ourselves in, that will flip industries on their head, that won't always be a convenient answer, but it is an example that we need to follow and then do as he has done. And so I pray that this episode has blown your mind and gotten after your heart. I pray that some of you now see that you are leaders. And I pray for those of you who already knew that they were, that you feel inspired to get bolder, get crazier, get even more wild about the dream that God has given you. And then no matter who you are and who you're leading and what you're leading them towards, that you lead well and that you use this outline of questions just to explore the edges with yourself, with God, and with those that you lead, that you might continue to dream bold, lead big, and make an impact for the kingdom. So until next week, join me in this process. And I can't wait to talk with you next week because we're going to continue to dive deep into what it means to be a leader. Until then, see you soon. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Free to Dream podcast. I hope you are leaving on fire and ready to chase your dreams with boldness. Don't forget to like and subscribe and to share this episode with one person who needs it most. And as always, stay tuned in for more conversations every single week that are going to help you live out your God-given purpose, because you belong where you are free.